Hey guys, what's up? JOC back here again, and today I'm going to predict the 2019 Minnesota Vikings offense production. That's the biggest talking point, is how well will Stefanski in full offensive coordinator duties with a full training camp being the offensive mind for the Vikings with these new pieces, with the Gary Kubiak influence. How is that going to improve this Vikings offense? So today I'm going to be trying to predict that production. And let's start off with the very top, Kirk Cousins. I think we're going to be passing the ball a lot, and we're going to be ahead of more games. So our full passing attack is going to drop, but be more explosive at the same time. So we're looking at 550 attempts and 420 completions for Cousins. I gave him the same percentage as last year, so 70, still really high. I was thinking about lowering it due to more deep shots, but I think it will all work out and it'll be about the same. And that is an improved 4,310 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, which are both higher than last year. So an improved year with Cousins, and more of what we want. Less passes, more yards, more touchdowns, less interceptions would be perfect. But let's look at his weapons. And Thielen and Diggs, you would expect to have huge years, and as much as I want them to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, I don't think either of them do. I think Thielen will be just under 100 yards, or 100 catches with 95, and 950 yards and 5 touchdowns. The 950 to 95, that's a 10-yard average, which last year Thielen was only at 6 yards, so it's a lot more explosive for Thielen for his average catch, or average yards per catch ratio. So we got a little bit more explosive, less plays, less yards, similar touchdowns. I think some of those will get stolen by some of these other guys. To Diggs, still less, 80 catches, but 950 yards, same yards as Thielen, but 15 less catches his way. So he's going to be extremely explosive. I think Diggs is going to have a really big year. And then 9 touchdowns, which was the same as last year. I think Diggs is going to be just fun in this offense. But moving to wide receiver 3, Josh Doctson. Despite not having a full training camp, I still think he comes on strong, but still not as good as he was last year. But for wide receiver 3, with everything else going on around him, I think this is fine. 40 catches, 450 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And that is very solid for wide receiver 3, which would be the Vikings' best wide receiver 3 since 09 Bernard Berry getting passes thrown by Brett Favre. But then we have wide receiver 4, Chad Beebe, 25 catches, 230 yards, no touchdowns. And my boy Bisky Johnson, 10 catches and 100 yards, no touchdowns. So a solid receiving group for the Vikings. Moving on to the tight ends. And Rudolph, a big talking point, has been getting him the ball more, but I don't think it's necessarily getting him more passes. I think he has 60 catches, 600 yards. That's still plenty explosive for Rudolph, and 8 touchdowns. That is the biggest thing. That's the only improvement for his stats based off last year's, and I think that's the only area where you want him to improve. Because he had plenty of yards and catches last year. He just needs to be the red zone threat that he's supposed to be, and I think he is that guy, especially with our better running game, hint, hint. But Irv Smith next, and a lot of Vikings fans are extremely high on Irv Smith Jr. I say pump the brakes. He will be fine, but he's not going to be 2010 Gronkowski. Right? I think Irv Smith, 20 catches, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's fair. Being the number 2 tight end behind all these other receivers, that's a fair production for Irv Smith. Moving on to tight end 3. And right now, he's hurt, but David Morgan. And so he's more of a blocking tight end, and he's most likely won't play till after week 7. So, David Morgan, I have 5 catches, 30 yards, and 1 sneaky red zone touchdown. And Tyler Conklin, 10 catches, 100 yards, no touchdowns in David Morgan's absence. But those aren't the only guys that are catching the ball. We also have some running backs that are very dangerous in the passing game, starting with Dalvin Cook, and he's going to have a great year. 50 catches, 400 yards, 2 touchdowns. a similar pace as he was last year, just playing a full 16-game season, and Dalvin will be very, very good. Madison, 10 catches, 80 yards, no touchdowns. Abdullah, our scat back, 10 catches, 120 yards, no touchdowns. And CJ Ham getting 5 catches for a sneaky 50 yards, no touchdowns. Indeed. So that is the Vikings receiving production, and I think very solid. Despite some of the less production in Thielen and Diggs, they still would be having fantastic years. Rudolph would be back to getting a lot of touchdowns. Doxson would have a very good first year with the Vikings. I can even see him getting more touchdowns. If teams are bracketing Thielen and Diggs in the red zone, maybe Doxson could get a couple more because Cousins already trusts him more than he ever did any of the other receivers last year, not named Thielen and Diggs, and even them he didn't trust for some reason sometimes. But I think improved. The numbers are higher overall. So since we don't have selfish guys, I think that's fine. Spread the ball a little bit more. But let's run the ball too. And this is the thing that I think should make Vikings fans very happy. And Dalvin Cook. Doing Dalvin Cook's predictions, I took his rate of carry that he was on his rookie year. He had 4 games, so of course just take it times 4. And then I did it just a little bit less. Took 90% of his total production because I think the Vikings will cycle in other running backs a little bit more due to it coming off the 2 years of being injured. So Dalvin Cook, 260 carries, a 5-yard average, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns. That would be huge. Just last year, that would be alone for the players' rankings would make him the 3rd running back in terms of yards. That would be insane if the Vikings could do that. Madison would come through with 80 carries, a 4-yard average, 320 yards, 5 touchdowns. His average is a little bit low for Madison, but I see him picking up all those short yardage situations and a lot of those goal line plays, so he won't be in situations to break off those big, he runs a lot. I basically gave him very similar to the Latavius Murray stats. Mike Boone, 35 carries, 4.5 average, 158 yards, no touchdowns. Abdullah, 10 carries, 4-yard average for 40 yards. This brings the Vikings rushing attack to a 4.7 average, 1,818 yards, which would bring this team to 16th overall in rushing for the year, coming off of a 2018 season where they were 30th. So I think that's very reasonable. Turning this team that was horrible to average is, I think, about as far as of a jump as you would really expect. And I would hope, based off what we saw in preseason, that the Vikings could do that, and that would be great. And I think very, very reasonable. But there we have it, the full passing and running attack for the Vikings for the 2019 season. Predicted here, but might as well watch all 16 games, come back here and tell me how well I did. So make sure, if you guys need to share this video to yourself so you guys see it at the end of the year when the Vikings play in Super Bowl in February. Otherwise, we'll see you guys in the next JLZ Vikings video, and we'll see you guys next time.